It all started with a fight. I was cornered by several guys, and then he appeared. I remember it like it was yesterday. He seemed to have scared those 4 men. I didn't know where he came from, but it didn't matter. He saved me from getting beaten up, and that was reason enough for us to become friends. Who would have thought that from that day on, we would be friends for more than 3 years? Only later did I find out that he went to the same school as me, which was strange because I had never seen him there. His name was Andrew, but I called him AJ, short for Andrew Johnson. As the years passed, our friendship only grew stronger. Since the day he saved me, 15 years had passed. On that day, it was exactly 3 years since we'd met, but I was the only one who remembered. I decided to call him that night and suggested we go out for drinks and maybe meet some girls. That night was incredible. I dropped him off in front of his house with my car and went back home. The next day, I didn't even wake up for school, still feeling rough from the night before. Living alone, there was no one to make me get up. Not even my mother, who lived down the street with my father and aunt. Andrew, on the other hand, lived with his father, whom he loved deeply. Maybe because he had never known his mother, who died during childbirth, their bond was even stronger. Of course, that loss must have hurt him, but he seemed to have overcome it. His father told him the truth when he could no longer hide it, and Andrew loved sharing stories of his life with me. I admired him a lot. He was the quiet type, but if someone pushed him, he'd push back. I was certain we'd be friends forever. However, on the day of our graduation, a guy threatened him and Andrew broke his arm. I wasn't surprised. He knew several martial arts. The guy walked away angry, but we didn't pay much attention to it. The next day, I got a call. Come here and watch your little friend beg for his life. I knew right away it was about that guy. Without thinking twice, I grabbed a baseball bat and rushed to Andrew's house. When I arrived, I saw the door had been kicked in but was blocked with a chair, probably to keep people from seeing what was happening inside. I walked in and saw something that would change my life forever. Andrew was in the middle of the room, dead, and missing both arms. I will never understand how someone could go to such lengths, such cruelty. Tears ran down my face as I screamed in despair. Why? God? Why? Then I saw Andrew's phone on the table. There was a recording on it. Dreading what I would see, I started watching. Yes, it was exactly what I feared. For guys, probably friends of the one whose arm Andrew had broken. I couldn't watch it all. I was in shock, my legs trembling. I decided to hand the video over to the police, but before that, I called our friends and asked them to meet me at my place in an hour. I couldn't let our friendship be in vain. Within half an hour, I had cleaned his entire house, throwing away all the drugs that were there. Yes, Andrew had been a drug addict, but he had given it up a while ago. After tidying up, I went back to my house and prepared dinner. I had arranged for our friends to come over, but I didn't tell them the real reason. To break the news about Andrew's death. I hadn't called the police. Only I had seen it, only I knew what had happened. When everyone arrived, I asked them to sit at the table. After dinner, I told them the truth. I wanted to immortalize our friendship, especially mine with him. I knew that from that day on, he would always be inside me. To this day, I don't understand why they thought I had killed my own friend. The police also suspected me until they found that damn recording. I had to leave the country, make new friends because those weren't real friends. Now, all I have left is this small piece of paper and this stub of a pencil, locked up in here. They think I'm crazy. I don't know if it's because they think I orchestrated my friend's death, or because the ingredient in that dinner was pieces of my old friend. It doesn't matter. I know for sure that Andrew will always be inside me. The children, a 10-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl, were excited to move into their new rooms. They were happy to finally have their own space. However, something strange happened on the very first night. While everyone was sleeping, the girl, Elisa, got out of bed and went to one of the corners of the room. She began clutching the wooden wall, repeatedly whispering, "Help me!" Elisa had experienced episodes of sleepwalking before, so her parents weren't too worried at first. However, to ensure her safety, they decided the children should sleep in the same room. But after the change, Elisa started getting up every night, right after her brother had fallen asleep. She would leave the room and go back to the old one, where she approached the same wall and scratched at it, murmuring the same words, "Help me." Besides this disturbing behavior, the girl became increasingly withdrawn and sad, which made her parents even more concerned. Curious, the parents began asking the villagers questions and learned that, years ago, a man and his daughter had lived in the house. The girl had apparently gotten lost in the forest, and the father, in despair, took his own life shortly afterward. Gripped by fear and worry about Elisa's condition, her parents decided to investigate the reason for her obsession with that wall. They removed some of the wooden panels that covered the area, and to their horror, they found a small skeleton with its hands tied. This is the untold story of a hunter who, on an ordinary day, went into the forest to do what he always did, hunt. During his journey, he decided to change his route, seeking new experiences. He turned his truck toward an unfamiliar forest area, known for being rich in big prey. With his rifle in hand, he hoped to find some unsuspecting animal. However, he could barely see beyond his nose, as a thick fog suddenly covered the area. The mist was so dense that he lost his original path and, without realizing it, ventured deeper into the forest than he had planned. As he walked, he rubbed his arms to try and warm himself. The fog brought with it a bitter cold that chilled him to the bone. His breath formed small white clouds in the air. As time passed, the hunter began to shout in desperation, convinced that 2 days had already gone by. He was exhausted, hungry, thirsty, and with every step, the cold and anxiety grew worse, until, in the distance, he saw a small wooden cabin. Without thinking twice, he ran towards the cabin and, in desperation, entered without even knocking. Inside, everything was dark. Feeling his way around, he found a light switch. When he finally turned it on, horror filled his eyes. The walls were covered with frames. They were portraits of people who seemed to be watching him. However, something was terribly wrong with them. Some faces were incomplete, missing eyes, teeth, and in some, the entire face was absent. Despite the terror, exhaustion was stronger. Disoriented and relieved to have found some form of shelter, the hunter decided that any place was better than wandering aimlessly in the cold. He grabbed a blanket and, worn out, collapsed from hunger and fatigue. However, After some time, he suddenly woke up, gasping, as the blinding light of day hit his face. As he opened his eyes, he realized something horrifying. What he thought were portraits were actually windows. If you like this content, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. Thank you and see you in the next video.